So this has been a much requested feature of our Washington, D.C. meeting. We're very fortunate to have 4 folks here from IMLS, and what I'm going to do is allow them to introduce themselves as they bring us up to speed on what kinds of interesting things are going on at IMLS. So I'll just let you guys.
Good morning, I'm Dan Lukash. I'm the Senior Program Officer at IMLS, and I work with the National Leadership Grants for the museums. And I'll start with Chris Reich on the end. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Chris Reich, and I'm a Senior Program Officer with the Office of Museum Services, and work with the program, one of our newest programs called Museums, 21st Century Museum Professionals.
I'm Kevin Cherry, and I'm Senior Program Officer in the Laura Bush 21st Century Librarians program, which deals with personnel issues.
Rachel's going to be our primary speaker while she's getting set up, and Rachel is a program officer with National Leadership Grants on the library side. We have the museum office, the library office, the National Leadership Grant program is a joint program where both sides sort of come together and work on programs for that. Rachel's going to cover the primary gist of all the programs we have here. At the end, we'll make some comments and have be available for questions. So Rachel, okay, you're up.
Like Dan said, I'm Rachel Frick from the museum side, handling the National Leadership Grants for the Institute of Museum and Library Services. I joined last fall in November, taking over from Martha Crowley. You might have seen her face around the DC program. But we're just going to talk to you. I'm going to give you a little bit of history about the IMLS and then give you some information about our funding initiatives and opportunities that you might be interested in. The IMLS is the largest of the federal cultural agencies. For FYOA, we had over $260 million to distribute. We've been in existence since 1996, which the new agency combined Institute of Museum Services, which had been in existence since 1976, with the Library Programs Office, which had been a part of the Department of Education since 1956. We receive our funding through an annual appropriations process, and our current director is Dr. Reich, who's term with us runs until 2010. One of our strongest funding programs is the Laura Bush 21st Century Librarian Program. We also have a complementary program over in our museums office called the 21st Century Museum Professional Program. But what this program is trying to do is give money to our professional education programs in the graduate schools and undergraduate schools to increase the, proficiency and get our library and information museum professionals prepared to not only build these great interactive multimedia resources, but also help our faculty or teachers or schools actually use these and identify them for classroom use. What I'll go into a little bit more detail today is actually our National Leadership Grant Program for libraries and museums. This year our categories for funding were research demonstration projects, advancing digital resources, library and museum collaborations, as well as collaborative planning grants. Three of the key priorities for national leadership grants are that they provide a strategic impact, they demonstrate innovation, which is either an advancement on a practice, and also we see collaboration as a very high yield for these national leadership grants. Although it's not required, we found that projects that involve multiple partners and address, the problems and benefits of collaborating provides, the best investment of the federal expenditure on these grants. The maximum reward for these grants is $1 million. We do require a one-to-one cost share for those grants requesting over $250,000. But for projects under $250,000, a one-for cost share is encouraged but not required. Before I go over funding priorities for 2008, I just want to give you some background on some funding priorities we had for 04, 05, and 06. In those years, we had 2 funding categories, the Library and Museum Collaboration category, as well as what we call the Advancing Learning Communities category, that stressed the importance or priority of taking advantage of fast and large bandwidth and high-speed networks, and to call out for programs that would develop some really interesting, robust, and complex digital object collections, as well as collaboration tools and curricular tools to go along with these collections. What we learned from those 3 years of funding those types of projects is that we have these fabulous collections that are incredibly complex and large, and I think there was a point made by the gentleman from Texas A&M. The data is there today. Is it going to be there 9 months from now? Is it going to be there three years from now? And it's not just the data, but the context of that data and how it's represented, and then all the scholarship and the tools that are developed in relation to the data or the collection, and how are we preserving that. So that's what's informed our priorities for 2008. To really investigate archiving, preservation, data curation, digital stewardship, we're calling it a lot of things these days, for these great collections. So those are in more detail what we were called out for 2008, and we are pretty confident, in fact I'm 100% sure, these are the same priorities we're going to have for 2009. For the Library Museum Collaboration Grants, we were talking, I noticed in one of the presentations earlier this morning about the Natural History Museum wanting to partner with other people. We have in the past have had some very robust library museum collaboration grants, and they definitely hone in on a specific civic or educational need. This is our newest category of grant. This is the second year we've had this. It's the Collaborative Planning Grant. It's up to $40,000 for 12 months, and we do require a partnership. About the no commitments piece, just because we give you a planning grant doesn't necessarily mean you will actually get a full-fledged leadership grant. But we found that by awarding these planning grants, we actually get a higher caliber of national leadership grant applications, because it provides a formalized framework and a partnership and a timeline for people to develop these larger grant plans. So once again, it's $40,000 for 12 months to help you collaborate, get together, and do your needs assessment for the larger National Leadership Grant Program. I guess one of the more important things is our deadline. I'll get to this in a second. Our deadline for 08 was February 1. Our deadline for 09 will also be in the beginning of February. We try to hold to that annual deadline so people can plan. The deadlines for the 21st Century Professional Programs, both in the library and museum side, is in the beginning of December. Once again, we try to hold to that date as much as possible, but sometimes we miss our deadline, and we're required by the federal government to announce our guidelines 90 days before the end of the grant period, so it should be December. If anything, it always gets pushed up a month, so if it's not December, it's January. Some of the projects we've funded in the vein that I think might be interesting to this group is the Florida Center for Library Automation in the area of preservation repositories for complex objects. The repository is based on format migration, so it helps us identify these objects, what format they're in, so we can be key to move them forward. Another preservation initiative we've funded was the Alabama Commission on Higher Ed, which is a state-based network repository based on the LOCK system. You already heard about NJVid. This is definitely a statewide video on demand repository, and we're really excited about this project. Another project that was in response to the Internet 2 call out was the WGBH Open Vault project, which is a model for managing rich media sources, and it has a great curricular component as well. For more information about our grants, you can always go to our website at IMLS.gov. We also have a great registry for the digital collections we've created at the IMLS Digital Collections and Content Registry. You can actually go in there and search on collections that do have curricular components, or just video or just audio. And also you can subscribe to our online newsletter, which is the primary source. Did I just do that, Nate? Well, I'm trying to get you all back on time.
So I'm going to give you one or two more tips about National Leadership Grants, and then I'm going to ask Kevin and Chris to give 2 minutes on each of their little program highlights. One of the keys that Rachel was talking about with the National Leadership Grants, so we do have priorities. Any project is acceptable, so don't be concerned that we had a bunch of projects in the loop now that are going to use internet to and relate to that. So our priorities are current suggestions that we see as issues that are ongoing in the library museum communities. But if you have a project that you think fits in, that'd be great. The other key about National Leadership Grants, the key to these projects are right entitled, National Leadership Grant. Part of what we heard about this morning was the collaboration and sustainability. These projects are intended to be models. Models that other museums, other libraries, other organizations will look at and say, wow, that was a good idea. I'm glad they did all the groundwork for us. Now we have a model, we have some replication, we can maybe do what they've done. Because in the project, we have a significant emphasis on dissemination and evaluation of that particular project, because we want to see that evaluation, make sure the project accomplishes what it does, sets out the goals and meets those goals. And then there is a key dissemination component so that model can then be replicated by others. So those are some key components within National Leadership Grants to help assure the sustainability, such as Rachel mentioned, all those collections out there. Once it's done, who will still have access, how will that keep on going. Next, I'll turn it to Kevin to talk about the 21st century Laura Bush program.
As Rachel mentioned briefly, the Laura Bush 21st Century Librarian Program does support federal funding or provide federal funding for master's programs, PhD programs, continuing education for those already in the field, early career development, that's for tenure track faculty in information, library, and archival sciences. So if you want course buyout or support for your research project, that's what the Early Career Development Program does. We're especially interested in preparing information professionals to be able to better support lifelong learning in every sort of way. We're also interested in diversifying the professionals who work in information institutions. And that doesn't necessarily mean just race and ethnicity, but also language ability and subject background. And as Rachel alluded to earlier, we're interested in building the nation's capacity to better preserve digital information. And this brings us up to the area of convergence. And I don't know if we want to, how much we want to talk about this, but as we move more and more, as libraries, archives, public broadcasting, move more and more toward the digital realm, we see overlap in what it takes to manage that information, to preserve those digital objects. And so we are hoping to build a dialogue between and across these disciplines so that we can all learn from each other. So those are some of our priorities.
Mine is the smallest program, but good things come in small packages. The 21st Century Museum Professionals Program is one of IMLS's newest funding programs, and it's designed to build the knowledge, skills, and abilities of museum professionals so that they can better serve their communities and build the capacities of their institutions. We really would like to see more applications that address the need to train museum professionals in using the technological tools, the types of things that have been talked about this morning, more effectively. Eligible institutions include not only individual museums, but also colleges and universities, as well as any 501c3 or state or municipally based institution that I think the way the guidelines are worded can enhance the well-being of museum professionals or the museum profession. These programs are intended to reach multiple museums and multiple museum professionals. In other words, they're not intended for individual museums' professional development plans, but for the implementation of projects that train museum professionals throughout a region. It could be a single city, it could be a county, it could be a state, or it could be a national project. Different from the national leadership grants that you've heard about previously, the museum professionals for the 21st Century program do not have to be national models. They really just have to address a documented need within a target group of museum professionals. And our grant awards range from $15,000 to $500,000. And our deadline is actually March 15th. And one other thing I'll mention is that there really are a lot of opportunities at our agency, and we encourage you to call us as program officers to chat with us about your project ideas, and we can help you, develop a project design that might fit. Thanks very much.
I happen to have brought the checkbook today, so if you want.
Well, the programs we discussed really have broad projects where we see some collaboration that meet the needs of many agencies. But on the museum side in particular, we have a program where individual museums can apply to do individual projects that meet their institution needs. And that's also an opportunity that if you're working with the museum and you see that opportunity where they need some funding, they can use some of this project, Museums for Americas is the name of that program. They can apply to an individual project that will help them jump into some of the projects that you are doing. The bigger picture will provide funding from the museum side. So we've talked about some big opportunities. There's also smaller opportunities for at least in the individual museum. And I know also through the block grant, through the library program, through their state library agency, much of that funding that is set up by the state also fits in with many of the activities and opportunities that have been discussed this morning. So there are both opportunities for the big picture to collaborate, bring people together, try some new stuff, see what works out, but also there are those smaller funding opportunities for the individual libraries, individual museums to come in and sort of join your variety of groups. And hopefully our presentation here has helped. Just put that in your mind, make you aware of these opportunities, without you can come up and take advantage of our grant opportunities. I'd say probably most of our grant programs we're able to fund around the 25% rate, so we do get good feedback. We encourage reapplications of appropriate projects. We're willing to talk with you both before, after projects. The only thing we probably don't do that's different from most federal agencies is we don't read drafts of applications. We receive almost 1,000 applications a year across our programs, so in fairness issues, we can't read drafts. Any other quick comments before we go to questions?
I just want to reiterate, don't forget your state library agencies. Many digitization projects in particular have been funded through what is called LSTA funds, which is fed through the state library agency to local individual libraries, library systems. And many of those libraries and many of those grant programs at the state level have a collaboration component with another type of cultural heritage institution or the schools. So that's another avenue to this kind of funding.
Are there any questions we can take?
What percentage of your available funds is actually awarded? The percentage of your funding for grants is actually awarded each year? Is it 100%?
100%, yes. Congress has line items for each of our grant programs, and their administration budget is separate, so
So there's sufficient demand that even though I think you said 25% of your, so it's a 4 to 1.
25% of the applications we receive get funded.
Okay.
All the money, we're required to award all the money. In 2008, we're required to award all our money in this particular.
Can you use other federal funds like LSTA for match?
You cannot match federal with federal.
Do any of your grants cover helping museums develop distance learning programs?
Yes, the question was, do any of our grants help cover distance learning programs? Under National Leadership Grants, we funded some model projects for distance learning, and then the Museums for America program that I spoke about, that it would certainly be a competitive application for distance learning program. Yes.
Since I don't really know what the programs look like, what we're experiencing in Texas, we're having a tough time with the museums. They don't have the resources. They don't really understand the technology. They really need someone to come in there and really step through the process and develop a program and sustain it. So tell me how.
Well, the first thing that I would do, the State Library and Archives of Texas has a very active program supporting digitization activities. I know that's separate from distance ed, but a lot of the people who would be involved in that issue, I think Danielle Plummer is the person who does that in Texas. would be able to point you to local resources there, and they already have a lot of connection with the people who handle technology in local museums in Texas because of that interaction around digitization.
I think that statement is fairly common for the museum community. There are several leaders in certain areas, particularly the art museum field has done. Is one of the leaders in the distance learning with art education programs. History is slowly catching up. And certainly the science centers, as we heard early on, particularly with the NOAA, the support from NASA doing some math, and it's slowly trickling down. There are small museum computer network. American Association of Museums has a very active media and technology committee. So there is some filtering down coming along, but oftentimes it has been the individual institution that's had that inspired person that has been able to engage that. And slowly these networks are building, but it's not as strong as they are, particularly in the library community. Chris, do you want to add? Other questions?
Can you like email us like what some of your model programs would recommend us look at?
We have all the funded grants are summarized on our website by state and by discipline. If there's specific areas, we'd be glad to help you filter through that and find projects in this particular area.
All considered to be some of your better models to look at.
It really just depends on the content and where you're focusing on, because, you know, I think it gives a better idea if it's a video distance ed, then we can highlight maybe 5 or 10 to push you in that direction. But like Dan said, you can go to the IMLS website and go through by state all the things that we funded, and then as well as the digital registry as part of people that have actual collections.
You may also want to look for announcements for our annual WebWise conference, which is the conference that sort of highlights some of our recently funded projects in a wide range of using technology in libraries and museums.
And our WebWise conferences are actually available online from SMM08. You can actually see the video presentations of all the presentations out there.
And that is a free conference for the museum library community that will be in Washington, D.C. next February. We haven't firmed the dates up, but it will be in Washington, D.C. next February. We do invite you to pay attention. Usually the invitations come out in December on our website for open sign up. Last year's was on the social technologies, Web 2.0. We're working on the new topic for this year, but lots of relevant issues that we're talking about here, we also talk about at our WebWise conference. So there's one other question?
Yeah, libraries can be fantastic partners, and I think what you're doing is great. But a lot of libraries in our state are suffering from lack of bandwidth. And I'm wondering if there's anything on the horizon to support the cyber infrastructure for libraries.
Well,
I'm leaving the mic right now.
Oh, that's nice, thanks. I mean, yes, that is a huge issue right now, and I think we're trying to encourage, I think, isn't there some Gates Foundation money working towards that actual problem? That it has been recognized as a problem. We do have a study going on right now at IMLS talking about, you know, here the Gates Foundation and other government initiatives have gone to libraries to include their technological expertise, to include the equipment, but how important is that if their connection to the internet is like this big? So look for the results of that research study, because I think it will help inform some future policy and some funding opportunities. So we want to have some hard data before, instead of just anecdotal. So
Thank you.
thank you. What is that study about?
I have no idea.
It'll probably, if you want to just check our website, my email's on there. If you want to just send me an email, I can give you kind of a timeline where we think that research will be coming from IMLS. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. One topic that came up in our phone calls, monthly phone calls, our quarterly phone calls, monthly with the executive group and quarterly with the larger group, was the Internet 2 strategic planning effort. And in particular, how the strategic planning effort is unfolding, and where, if anywhere, it might intersect with the K-20 community. So I've asked Ray Ford, who's